welcome to XReality podcast. I'm the host, Dominic Wu, and beside me is our guest, Mike Chaves. Hi, Mike. Could you share a little bit about your background with us?
Hey, Dominique. It's been a pleasure to be on your podcast. I'm an experienced design technologist. I was working recently on voice-driven XR, AI-assisted accessibility in XR. Um, I was doing that work at when I was completing my master's at San Jose State University. And, even then, my thesis project explored using natural voice as the main controller in mixed reality, especially for users with limited mobility. And then, before that, I've worked on uh, VR and AR projects for Ford Motor Company, for Starbucks. I was part of Snapchat's Spectacles Accelerator program earlier this year. So I got to hands-on work on their latest Spectacles classes and build certain, AR and voice-driven AI prototypes in that accelerator program. So now lately, I'm a UGC engineer at Astrocade AI. So we use AI assistant creation as part of the daily workflow. And then outside of my role there, I'm building Wizzo, which is an AI companion platform centered on personal growth and ethical agent design.
Oh, wow, you have a lot of great experience. And maybe we can start with, like, for example, you mentioned your master program, right? You use like a voice assisted device. Can you tell us a little bit about what's the concept about and what types of problem you are solving? And also, what's the end product and end goal? And does anybody or what's the end product look like?
Absolutely. So for my undergrad, I was in a games interactive media program where we were, throughout the whole 4 years, we were kind of taught and mentored how to think about problem solving in XR for, improving accessibility needs. So we were working on, um, you know, different methods to be more inclusive. For example, people um, on different levels of the spectrum. And during then, we're using like old Oculus Rifts and Oculus Go and all that. The SDKs then weren't really, you know, um, full in terms of voice voice inputs. So there's a lot of hard coding. So even back then, I was like trying to make the commands, using voice to, play the next scene, to interact with the buttons in VR at the time. So I kind of wanted to continue that in grad school. So that was the niche that I figured I could continue to work on. I have some background, some research, and some inspiration. My son has low muscle tone. Um, like I know there are teams out there who are considering how to be more inclusive in extended reality without controllers. It's difficult. So I focused on making voice the primary input.
Oh,
Um, and what I did with my thesis, Speakeasy, was, kind of doing some research and synthesizing, like, what does this mean? What are the requirements to make using voice as the driver? And luckily, with AI, didn't have to rely too much on on opening up Jupyter notebooks and writing extensive machine learning Python scripts and letting that run all night long. Uh, still a factor. But more of like, they're already like, so which AI by Meta is already something that the Meta team or did all that early on machine learning work where you can just drop in the API into your VR build or your XR build. And I was using um, uh, the API in the background to detect different utterances, pitch, voice, and retrain the model for that person specific, needs. So making it more personalized through voice. And that was kind of what I was working on. So, like your list of commands to like play this, open this, click on this, eventually expands to a larger list of intents that the AI was able to recognize through, like I said, different voice patterns or accents, and then just suggest training itself on that user's intent. So that was what I was working on up until recently. And now I've been focusing a lot on still kind of considering like voice driven AI um, in all experiences. So going from just immersive 3D experiences to 2D platforms. And so lately I've been focused a lot on 2D platforms, trying to still kind of use a lot of that XR accessibility expertise, I suppose. But yeah, all over the place, I suppose. But um, I do plan on like returning back, if anything, to the 3D world. Um, I've been trying to consider like WebGL as a more accessible or inclusive output for everyone, because everyone could just use their phone or a web browser. So using like 3JS or D3 libraries, typical JavaScript or TypeScript libraries, might eventually be a way to still create immersive 3D worlds using, like I said, I could use voice-driven AI or I can use AI assistant throughout the experience, but you're doing it on through WebGL on a web browser. That is my next endeavor. Trying to not say, walk away from wearing the physical device, but also trying to bring that immersive experience still back into, our daily 2D device, lives. So
Wow. So, you mentioned that you do like, for example, like a more voice, right? You use voice inputs instead of controller, right? So, may I ask you, for example, like a voice control? What's the accessibility like issues people need to aware if they wanna use voice inputs?
latency is a huge thing, a huge problem using, when you want to use voice, you first of all, you might have to have a command to activate the voice.
Oh,
And that's also for privacy reasons, but also like uh, it's really expensive memory wise to have like mic
yeah.
on all the time, right? And um so that also kind of like, I think all these little things, latency, having turning on the the microphone or turning on the active listener kind of kind of uh kind of interrupts you from the smooth immersion. Um, so I can see why controllers are just way much easier. Plus, if you don't want to speak all the time, it's easier just to press the button, press X or press A, and it takes you there. So those are some of the challenges. What I focus on, like, yeah, I would love to see more voice first experiences. since, we're talking right now, I think we do use voice a lot more than just our daily driver. Um, so I would do encourage still try to consider how to build, a game in 3D or a simulation or a training app using voice. But there's, like I said, the hurdles are there's a lot of back end work to kind of clear those obstacles and try to make it more as smooth as possible. So if anyone wants to be working on that, I encourage working on all those, like, work on latency, um, work on a way to voice, to turn on and off voice as the voice listener without, you know, um, going beyond the way it is right today. So those are some big obstacles that if you're a developer, you should be kind of considering before you start adding a voice model into the mix. And voice models can be very expensive too. But,
Yeah, and when you mentioned that voice model, it reminds me of long time ago. Remember a few years ago, we have like a human, right? Human
yeah.
AIP, right? So you can talk to it. And I remember I also interviewed some people about that because I remember Peg Talk, the CEO was saying that, oh, we shouldn't have a device that block our eyes, and human really using voice device and project to your hand. When I see the projection, it's like, how can I even see it? Like sometimes even during the demo, I feel like it's very hard to, even you wanna watch, stuff. It's just like a very hard to do things. But I think the vision is amazing. It's like
Yeah.
yeah, like I use the voice to talk to it. And you just mentioned that for privacy issue, you need to have, like, for example, you click something and you don't want the mic keep on, right? I even watch because I was thinking about, is that as good as the promotion, right? On TikTok. So I watched some YouTubers when they got some human device, and I saw one of the most popular one, and he was sitting in the car and trying to use human to do things. However, it seems like the latency, just like you said, that the latency and sometimes it just go dead end, right? And I remember like a few years ago, there's another device called Rabbit R1 or something, right? So it's like you can tell that Rabbit that device is meant to be replaced for all the things. It's like the first AI agent, right? When it came out, we were like, wow, computer can do things for you. It's like a so sci-fi. Now it's everywhere. It's AI agent, agentic AI. So what do you see those, why they fail according to your understanding?
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of why, when I graduated, I didn't necessarily put a pin on speakeasy, but I took some of that, those the framework that I was trying to build, and I put that into my into Wizzo Labs for my 2D platform. I would say that, what we've seen there with Humane and with Rabbit, and even my own work, we can call them like happy failures. um, and so, like, I remember an early version of Speakeasy, the voice commands were interpreted inconsistently. It forced me to always scrap my original grammar and design a simpler, more natural structure. So, I mean, the failure, like, it's good to fail. Like, we're gonna fail most of the times for our life. Spoiler alert to our viewers. You're gonna fail a lot. But that makes the system easier to use when you're like trying to understand, especially for like adaptive voice interfaces, like what does work and what doesn't. And um, I think that those teams, those products that we've been mentioning, were pioneers to the reason why it's still very important to have that AI, spatial AI um, you know, uh, endeavor where we are talking to our AI in, in the moment. And
Mm,
that's really the thing I was trying to do with even Speakeasy was, in the moment, try to, instead of like turning on voice or audio and or, trying to, uh, user controllers to navigate. My
mm,
focus was for people who cannot use controllers because I was trying to throw that out of the question, or out of the equation. I figure like, what about people that cannot use controllers?
mm,
How do they experience, spatial AI as equally as possible to people that can use controllers or can click on things. Um, and I think that's a lot. Those early on devices were trying to do that, even though I know like you have to still kind of like pin
yeah.
to activate. So you
Mm,
still you saw the demos. You still needed to press your finger.
mm,
Um, and, a lot of us are frustrated at home every time television or someone says something similar to, hey, SIRI or hey, GOOGLO. And all of a sudden our devices all over that whole world are turning on, like listening, like, you need help with something? Like, no, be quiet. We don't need, we need the Alexa. So, it's tough, right? It's tough trying to have like when you do want to speak to um, our AI
mm,
helpers out there,
yeah.
to examine the, you know, both the physical world and the uh, digital world.
Mm,
Um, how do we get them? How do we have them there with us at all times, as if we have an actual person, a friend, where we can like turn left and be like, "Can you see that right now? Can you help me?
yeah.
What does that mean?" Okay, so how do we do that without like tapping your friend? Hey,
Mm,
pay attention. I'm asking you a question. Um, but a little too off, but it's really difficult. So, like I said, like those devices, and even some of the work I've done, happy failures. I mean, they they were exciting to have some outcome.
mm,
Um, thing Problems like latency did improve with
mm,
people who focused on trying to work on that.
mm,
Lately with Wizzo, I've been writing a lot of machine learning scripts
mm,
to to kind of like improve on latency.
mm,
So not just grabbing an API from like 11 Labs, for example, and just or OpenAI and relying 100% on just putting
yeah.
the key, the API key into your IDE, and oh, app works great. Now I have voice in my app. Well,
Mm,
now you have to personally like sit there as a developer and try to like, okay, I need to improve on the user experience here. I need to on my own
mm,
add add you know add ways to improve latency, to improve voice pattern recognition, and not just rely on an API.
Are you using RAG more like a
Yeah.
kind of like oh like a be more like a, you are setting up the roles and tell
Yes.
the voice how to respond, very similar to local chatbot. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, RAG is still in play. I think a couple years ago, I would hear people like, "Is RAG dead?"
Mm,
Like, well, if you're building, you got to realize you still need to kind of build your own little like sandbox environment and help the AI, see your vision and think, think about your users, the people in your community, and how you can improve that. So these frontier models, these research labs, they're doing phenomenal work setting up
mm,
the platform for everybody. But if
mm,
you are working on your own product, I encourage you to still kind of consider your community, your
mm,
audience, and like build a RAG pipeline, a
yeah.
CI/CD pipeline, an ML pipeline, machine learning, all on your own. Still, don't just rely on dropping an API key.
Mm,
There's still a lot of hurdles that everyone are still working on. So we're still a couple years away from that smooth interaction, especially in voice.
Oh, yeah, that is you like you mentioned CICNL, like your own pipeline. And as far as I know, some people use, for example, like a Lovable, right? Or some people like it's like there are a lot of tools that starting building up like, oh, uh it's so easy. You just text prompt, UI will be done, back end, front end will all be done in just one click. Like sounds so easy. And versus, for example, like you use Cursor, right? I heard that. I remember I went to San Francisco Tech Talk. I was one of the speaker, and the one of another speaker when we had a panel talk. She owns a like a game studio, and I remember the company. They have like over 100 employees, and she said that okay. So she said, if you are not using Cursor, you are not coding. And I was like, wow, that is a radical yeah statement. However, it's very interesting that right now using your brand, using Google becomes the most like wow, you are pretty much code on your own. Even though like I would say 10 years ago it's kind of normal. Everybody's doing that, right? You Google. Right now, for example, school. It's impossible, for example, like if a coding teacher tell you not to use AI, but when you Google it, Google AI will show directly all the AI stuff for you. It's hard not to use any of it. And according to your experience, since you are building all the platform from ground up, do you suggest using more like for example, like a Lovable or MCP, Figma MCP directly to Cursor, right? Recently I was doing that. I feel like wow, that's amazing. However, my code was pretty messy anyway. Yes. What do you suggest? Like, what types of like a MCPAI agent or whatever you like to call? Like, what's the best like types of pipeline you recommend?
100%. Well, I've been around for a while, and I'm just throwing that part out there first to say that I'm always adapt to change,
Hmm.
um, and I am not a doomer. I encourage people, whether they are pro developers or they
Hmm.
just never never coded in their life, to use these AI tools. So those who go on Lovable, I think that's a good, you know, um, early entrance point to
Hmm.
um, building at least digital experiences right now.
Hmm.
So if you're a student and, you know, whether you're a CS student, computer science student, or you're not, I still think if you're like a freshman computer science, um, you're reading your Java books, you're building your first Hello World, script,
Hmm.
and you're really that. I remember that early time when I did that. You're so excited, like I built something. I did the it it read Hello World back to me, or I built my first game, and it's just like these blocks moving around the screen, and like you're really excited about that. I think vibe coding platforms do that for people,
Hmm.
like your Lovable, like your V0. Um, I though at that point,
Hmm.
I do encourage people to kind of get into some, to level up, and those IDEs has always been there for a long time. VS Code, Visual Studio, Sublime, Eclipse, uh, or just coding in a CLI or a terminal.
Hmm.
That's always been there, and I think that they're still there for people to jump into. So I do use Cursor. I've used others before that are somewhat had agentic coding assistant.
Is that Replit? Replit?
I've used Replicate, Windsurf,
Oh,
and then even VS Code with you could
Um,
GitHub. You could just
GitHub, yeah, Copilot, yeah.
Copilot was the first to kind of really jumpstart this.
Mm,
Um, I still think that's the way to go. So you're going to build something on Lovable. I encourage you to download those files, open up Cursor, for example, and build there and use the AI assistant, the AI tools there. Connect to your GitHub. Create a GitHub if you don't know what that means. Create a GitHub account. Start do the by doing that though, by
yeah.
having still structure and a workflow, you're going to understand the code more. You're going to learn certain things to help improve performance or improve the workflow itself. So we talked about CI/CD, like having that continuous integration. You'll learn how to do that by stepping away from a website, a vibe coding website, into the world of repositories and IDEs and code.
I see. You don't want like, for example, your co-host in other platform, right? For example, like, yeah, you still
I
want to,
think,
oh, yeah.
yeah, no, I'm sorry. I still think like if you can, if you have the idea, the vision,
Mm, mm,
and you can get it all done
mm,
on a vibe coding platform,
mm.
great. Because maybe a lot of times it's like, hey, build me this, and it builds it. You're like, that's what I needed. I needed
Yeah.
just that prompt.
Mm.
You don't need to worry about security
Yeah.
or building a whole test suite to make sure that
Yeah.
everything's working.
Yeah.
Um, but I do, like I said, I do encourage like kind of to go from there and jump into that world. And people will have a lot of fun still um, going into more of a full stack dev environment themselves, right? I think you'll build stronger products. So not, unless this is sponsored by Lovable,
Uh,
if it's
no, no, no. It's just like recently I got a lot of people like build something right from Lovable and from Cursor. Cursor is the most magic I would say dev tools that I knew so far because I mean I'm currently building like a VR experience. And for some reason, I find out that, for example, if you have team, everybody's coding style is different. And somehow you couldn't understand what other people's doing, right? If somebody's coding is like is not your style and everything is like component, right? Component based. And you were like, wow. And for me, I mean, my background is graphics. So when I code is pretty much, I would say so simple. The way that I code is like when you read it, it's like a no brain. I don't do abstract. I don't do like a lot of things that will have to construct, right? You build like a API, you always refer. I don't really do that. I just want it a very long script, but it whatever you want, you just read it, you understand. So every time when I jump into work on other people's project, I usually use S in Cursor and say, hey, I want to do this. And can you tell me which parts and give me suggestion what to do? Because I don't do agent because agent is so fast, just deploy and what if I don't like it? So I usually use S. And then build now, like they have like some, suggestion and they have some, like a action. If I want to take an action, I can select. So that's how I do like a Cursor and I find out, wow, this is amazing. And pretty much, I know they have like some sort of model you can pick, but the unlimited and $20 or $25 per month. And I just keep using it. I feel like the interesting thing is that before I code, I really type the words into my IDE. And now I just, I say I'm the director. I just write down what needs to be changed and type it and everything auto complete. So I don't know what's the definition of coding right now. It's not really I'm typing each later inside IDE. It's more like I give the direction and AI complete for me.
well, I think you're onto something there. So all these jumps in my life, I always try to make sure there's a theme there and make
Mm,
sure that's consistent. And it's storytelling,
mm,
no matter, it's
yeah.
user experience.
Mm,
You want to make people happy or make
mm,
yourself happy. If you're just building something for yourself, like,
yeah.
then go ahead and use a vibe coding platform to make something quick for yourself.
Mm,
Use agentic coding, like, like in Cursor, to
yeah.
kind of
Wow. Mm,
to understand your code. It goes and reads through all your code. It is there to build with you. It creates a plan with you,
mm,
or it executes on your command, and
yeah.
you're still you're still maintaining the vision. It's the person's vision.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
storytelling. It's directing. Um, so yeah, let's just go with that. I think, like, these tools are these AI driven tools now, are there for the creator, and we're all creators
Mm,
now. And
yeah.
there's no creator. Oh, I'm a creator, but you're just a user, or you like my stuff. I'm like, well, that person can do the same thing you can do now. And as long as everyone has their own creativity, their own vision, it allows everyone to tell their story, to story tell. So I think XR has always been a big player in more adaptive storytelling, or games have been for the longest time,
Mm,
in movies, of course.
mm,
But now you can kind of shift towards, you could be at home, you can prompt a movie, you can prompt an image, or
mm,
a whole app. Um, but if you are involved more, if you're directing, but you're also understanding, you're seeing the behind the scenes, because that's what a director is there. They film, you know, thousands of hours of footage, and then they give us like an hour and a half. They were there behind the scenes, quite literally, right?
mm,
And what you've described as you on Cursor, and you're seeing behind the scenes, you're seeing everything
mm,
happening. When you just go on a vibe coding site, you don't see any of it. You
yeah.
just, it's like magic. Oh, it appeared, and it might be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, right. It's interesting that, for example, like when after the UI is being done, right? There's a MCP button on the Figma dev mode, and as long as you sync with your cursor, you can directly click, select whatever you want, click, and it will deploy. However, the code was very messy because you see, like AI doesn't really know, what component. For example, if you want to turn to a website, right? If you use React, you need component. Every function is
Yeah.
the component, right? And it doesn't really know what's your branding color, what's your header, what's the public area, what's the body, right? So it's just like it's a spaghetti code, and you need to later on you get in and start kind of identify, what's the component, and you need to redo it. And I find out, wow, it's interesting because I mean, I have I learned from there's a website called Scrumba. I
Mm.
learned my React coding from that website, and then after learning, I feel like I'm as according to what that website I was following, probably I'm halfway there. I saw, according to your illusion, you might think, oh, I might be able to code something because I'm working on an app, according to the curriculum. However, I just find out that sometimes when you just keep following the tutorial, you really don't know what's going on. I mean, I'm very new to React. And then when I start working on the the one that Cursor helps me, and I start using Plan, Ask, and it becomes my mentor. So
Right.
it's like, hey, build a DOM router for me, plan for me, because I want everything be more like an object, right? Because there's a certain structure. So
Yes.
after do that, why and how can I do better? So I keep asking the chatbot, and chatbot gave me some suggestion, and I say, okay, let's do it. And sometimes I have ChatGPT and just like a double check, like two systems, is this good? Have like a second opinion. So I feel like
I did.
yeah, it's like somebody who can do better than you, but always need your advice. It's more like you are working with your teammate, right? And then you give advice. Sometimes you just like, oh God, I don't know what to answer. So you know, it's like it's also a learning process. Even though today I just read a news, it says that yeah, it's like managers managing managers is over right now. It's more like right now everybody becomes manager and managing AI agents, right? So it's very similar to what I feel about my coding experience that I find out that interestingly, I am taking the notebook and start writing down like, hey, I want this to be, it's more like a drafting what vision I want and put in the prompt or debugging. And before debugging, I was using, console.log, right? Yeah, you were trying to do like, hey, how to do that. But now I find out that I just record the entire experience because when I was working on things, I couldn't focus on uh, documenting at the same time. So I need to record. And when I rewatch it, I start documenting what's the bug. And later on, I just type whatever I wrote. So it becomes a very different experience from the previous coding to now what we are doing. It's very similar to manager and director, and your employee or your, people who work for you is the bot. Yeah.
Yeah. I wrote an article, I think in 2024. And I was thinking about this then, when AI becomes the user,
Hmm.
like what will shift and what
Yeah.
stays the same.
Yeah.
Uh, Now we're kind of we're in that world now. Um, so what shifts in your role? We talked about it. You become the supervisor of the
Yeah.
behavior rather
Mhm.
than the designer of of direct interactions. You have to think about still the oversight. You have to think about the guardrails. You have to, what stays the same is clarity, of
Mhm.
course, but people need to understand why something happened and how much control they have. So yeah, you don't need the manager of the manager. I mean, that was always kind of ridiculous, to be honest. So sorry to anyone. But now everyone is a supervisor, and you still have to understand
Hmm.
what you want out of this. So what's your vision? What's the story? And then you also have to kind of build the guardrails, and whether you're using RAG or you're there
Hmm.
trying to understand what's happening as it's being developed. You need to steer the AI to the right outcome. So if everyone does that, then you're building stronger products, stronger
Hmm.
experiences, or more of them. I would figure there's going to be more of an abundance, which is why I'm kind of excited about my latest role at Astrocade, where my role there as UGC engineer is
Hmm.
to help the creators, um, uh, help them maybe think of more that they are more of a supervisor
Hmm.
role, and how they can you know tr- you know work on guardrails, build maybe um, more editing user friendly tools so that
Yeah.
others can remix the games, they can play the games, they can also like be able to add their own flair to it. um, there's still got to be that, I suppose we use this term human in the loop a lot. um, I think that plays a huge role. Like, we are all now the human in the loop more than ever.
Hmm.
um, but I also believe in AI first. So there's kind of a little like contradiction
Interesting.
there.
You like it AI first, or like I remember there were two. AI first. So what's next?
Yeah.
AI.
There's AI first. Jeremy does a better job at me explaining this. Yeah, yeah, he actually sent an email. Uh, so who I'm speaking with is Jeremy Wong. He hosts these llama lounges throughout the Bay Area, and he talks about like the AI first method. So, you have like people, you have companies who are very AI skeptic. So they're like, they haven't yet even, um, there's different levels of that. There's companies that haven't even introduced AI into their work organization or their workflow yet. There's those who use a little bit of it. And then you have a lot of startups like you and me, who are AI first, where we can't, hire a big team off the bat. So we try our best uh, like, to determine if AI tools can get the job done. And
Mm.
you're there though, you know,
Yeah.
working with them with these tools, whether you're supervising or you're coding yourself or you're drawing yourself, sketching, you're there with them. If AI cannot do the job, then consider people. That does not to say,
Oh,
don't hire anybody. It's just to say, like, try your best to succeed if
mm,
you can't bring people into your organization.
yes.
So right now, I can't bring people into my organization. So
Yeah.
did I
Very
make the
accurate.
dream? Do I still want to make the dream? Yeah, because I want to hire people, and I think that's if
Mm,
everyone wants to hire people,
yeah.
then they're at home thinking AI first. Like, don't just say that. Oh, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. Well, we have
Mm,
these high IQ AI bots
mm,
out there for $20 a month, as you said, who are there that can execute as much as possible. I
yes.
wouldn't say 100%.
Yeah.
But I know they will when we talk about AGI and, or artificial super intelligence. They're definitely going to be able to execute everything 100%. But until then, still make your product or your dream or your movie or your video game,
Mm,
still go as hard as you can. Join a community or build a community, get everyone excited about, the thing you made because you're able to make it now. You know,
mm,
uh, maybe you weren't able to make it years ago, but you always had this dream and now you're able to make, the game you wanted. So like, here's a funny thing. I've been revisiting a lot of my old like uh VR games that I built. I've built them in Unity years
mm.
ago and dealt with all the pain points there. And now it's like, oh my God, you finally fixed that level in like a minute. It took me like years trying to fix that. It inspires
Yeah,
me to
right.
like get it out
Right.
there. So use AI to help you to get your passion out there. And then that's the AI first. That's I believe. Um, you're the first. The human's the
Mm,
first, but AI is there to get the idea out there with you.
wow.
Better and faster maybe than you could have done on your own. Not to say, like I said, I was stuck. I was stuck with my games. My games were always like, well, level one works, but I'm not going to finish the game because level two
Mm.
doesn't work.
Yeah,
Like it's not.
I totally understand because sometimes, it's interesting that, and for me, every time when I build something and when I pass to another team member, and he just said that, hey, um, I don't know what to do next. And I say, oh, you move forward and you trigger the untrigger enter, and so things will move on. And he said, oh, really? I didn't know that there's no prompt or any hints. And the interesting thing is that everything is in the developer's mind. So when we do the user testing, it's all good. But when somebody use it and they will find all the problem, like how should I do? I don't know why everything stops. What should I do? Right. So I understand. And so sometimes I feel like yeah, like when I revisit my old game, I just realized that it's so hard to use. Sometimes, like the experience, I need to think more, and also using AI is much, much easier, especially Cursor has plan and ask. Then I feel like they become my teacher. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's been a lot more fun actually, just building things. I haven't had this much fun since, learn, those early days of
Mm.
building something, it works. You're building it with a team in the middle all night long, and you're celebrating together. So I still look
Yeah.
for that togetherness. That's very important. You can't just be like
Mm.
in your own bubble building with all your robots with you. You still want to celebrate with people. So
Yeah.
whether that's a team or a community, or the community becomes the team, like co-designing is
Yeah.
something that I've been inspired in the last couple of years to,
Yeah.
you're not just sending your game or your app to beta
Mm.
testers or your friends. You're doing that, of course, and you're gathering feedback, but you're also
Mm.
bringing in participants, people who are
Ooh.
there from almost the beginning, and they are sharing you the experience of the iterations that you're building, and
Mm.
like you're co-designing it. See, right now, I guess we've been talking a lot on this podcast about essentially co-designing with AI. But
Mm.
co-designing with people is something that is really important, and I like that strategy.
Mm.
I may not, during my grad work, I was co-designing throughout the
Mm.
whole for at least like a year out of the 2 years. Lately, I'm home alone, so I'd been beta testing more than co-designing, but I still encourage people
Mm.
to to you know invite the audience that you're trying to reach out to into your work early on.
Yeah.
So then you're all celebrating in the end, just like the old days when it was just you all night with your coding friends. But yeah,
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting. Before you can see the company start building up, right? More and more people. And now you see like a lot of companies, a couple of people that can accomplish a lot, right? So, and especially with the power of AI tools. For example, um, for me, before I just start learning, web development. And then, when there's a Figma file being done, it might take me a very long time to watch the tutorial to turn everything become component. But now I just spend, like a click a button, wait for 5 minutes and see something is not right and text prompt to fix it, or screenshot and just like tell it like I want this way, and then it might take like half an hour and 5 screens being done. So, and later on, you can always ask Cursor, hey, if I want to put API, how should I do it, right? You can always ask. I feel like there's a stock, right? Before I was stuck, right, and I would probably need someone help, right? And but now I feel like wow, it's feels like you see like the working flow is much faster, and you can see a person's productivity, right? And then right now I can see you see the team before you see your example you are from developer and now become designer, right? So you are like you can do much more, and plus AI you feel like you can uh long time ago you can be, the entire agency or studio, right? Your productivity. Yeah. So,
yeah. I didn't touch too much on like uh, UX design or
mhm,
Figma or Adobe XD. I was doing that before I jumped over to Figma. Um, there was, there are UX designers today who they are still really good, and they're just um, focused day to day on building out these beautiful uh, wireframes and prototypes, going from low fidelity to mid to high fidelity, and connecting everything through Figma. Maybe they're even using Figma's own agentic tools in there or prompting. Um, and at the end of the day, you have to like still deliver that to a developer, unless they're also part of that pipeline, that workflow as well. Then they just move on. So uh, if I think what you said there is like moving, we're able to do things faster. Not to say that you're cutting off the expertise or the work involved in a particular part of the product process, the whole design process,
Mm.
but you're able to still, because I guess I'll say having an idea, a movie, a product, an app, there's so many things involved. I mean, if you really sat
Yeah.
there and you built out your roadmap, or if
Mm.
you if you're agile like me, you're building out ethics and sprints and, you're connecting all these tasks together,
Mm.
which by the way, right, that's another role that a product manager, that was their job. But now like you still got to connect that. You see that as like so much years worth, infinite, almost your whole life. You can like, if you have an idea, that's the idea of building a company. Your idea can, you know, be the next 40 years of your career because you're just
Yes.
like adding all these features, So anyways, I'll scale back to the idea of using AI to help you build faster, or especially if you're a small team,
Mm.
a team of one in my case. Uh, you can integrate, like you said, MCPs
Yeah.
into Cursor, and it can help you build your Figma files or read your Figma files, or I use a Unity MCP. And that
Oh.
was kind of fun at first because I'm like prompting a whole Unity game. I'm there watching I'm watching like the hierarchy being added and
Mm.
the shaders and the mapping and like everything was being made. It could the
Is that news
it, it
Unity?
was it wasn't Muse. It was someone it was the first one that came out like a year ago. It was a
Oh, you
person
found somebody's GitHub? Oh.
somebody made it on GitHub, open source. Yeah, yeah. I think it
Oh,
was
got it,
Jakeson.
got
Yeah, yeah,
it.
yeah. And it was amazing. It was fun. It was like I prompted it to build a racing game and just like watching it actually work. It was crazy. Um, but yeah, but then like it doesn't stop there. So even if you're designing Figma, it doesn't stop there. Those designs have to turn into the product. So if you're the only person, or you and your friends are the only people that are maybe you're designer only or designer
Mm.
first, you're stuck at one point. You need
Yes.
the developer, and engineering is very complex as well.
Yes. Yes.
So AI LLMs, or I say this personally, LLMs are like they solved math right before
Yeah, yeah.
the human. They're like, so you give them zeros and ones. I'm putting this to layman's terms. they
Huh.
they got that. They're not as good as designing as they are as coding. That's
Mm.
why coding has shifted, or
Yeah,
coding
I
has
was
been the yeah,
shocked, right?
yeah. So there's still a play there, a place there for people,
Yeah. Yeah.
creators, visionaries, UX designers, still go out there, UX researchers. That's still critical
Yeah.
to interview people, to conduct usability tests,
Mm.
to draw your wireframes, draw your vision, but have the AI is there to like not hurt you. It's going to code the thing for you, and then you can move on to all the other fun things to add. I've been saying this recently. I just joked on X about how the next milestone for me,
Mm.
for Wizzo, is finally what I wanted to do. Was my vision months ago, but I spent the last 3 months like just building the structure,
Mhm.
and that could be, I guess, boring to most people. But the fun, just hang in there, right? Like when you're building, if you're using AI to help you build your XR experience, or any vision you have,
Mm.
have it there to do all the grunt work. I do all the stuff that you don't like, not you don't know how to do, you don't want to do. Let it do the math.
Yeah, yeah,
And then you get to the point where like, okay, cool, now I'm gonna have fun. Now, like, let's
yeah.
make this fun. Yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting that you see like before we all said that art director, right?
yeah,
Yeah. I usually said that guac or as far as I know, I saw some news. Elon Musk mentioned that you can text prompt to Grok. Grok is powerful enough if you do it right professionally. You should be able to build a spaceship and fly to the moon. It's that strong. It's that good. Yeah. So I said that the difference, why a lot of junior coders, developers, like including my student, always said that, oh, there's a hallucination. I text prompt it and it's not working. And I said that, oh, so now when we learn the coding, vibe coding, we learn how to prompt better because the senior one, uh, when I when I prompt, I usually knows all the how to talk. I've already know how I'm going to structure, so I just write down that and that AI to fill out all the API because I couldn't remember any single syntax, right? So that it to lay out for me. But for junior or people who just started, they couldn't describe very specific what they are looking for. So there are a lot of hallucinations. So I said that I told my student that for the difference between senior developer, why a lot of people teacher said that, oh, AI is for senior developer. If junior use AI will be a disaster. For me, it's not. It's more like you need to learn how to prompt and prompt better. This time, probably there's a hallucination, but next time you know how to tell it. You couldn't just be arrogant and say no to all the AI tools. And later on, when you become senior, and when is the point when you become senior and you start using AI? I feel like maybe just start learning it and just jump into that muddy place and start somewhere and start figuring your way out. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're doing a great, a great thing teaching, thinking about that. The teach mindset. You don't want to just be one of those professors that just no, they're not going to learn if they don't learn it the old way. Um,
Yeah.
you know, but with that teach mindset, you are a problem solver, first of all. So you're already looking at this as like, what can we do for the juniors? You
Mm.
know, let's teach spatial literacy, right? Let's also teach them ethical awareness, stuff that, by the way, like when I was a CS major,
Mm.
this is before AI was in the book. Even though AI has been around for like 60 years, the idea is, I still learned like what are the ethics of coding? What are the,
Yeah.
considering, you know, being more ethically aware. So you
Mm.
still want to, as a professor or as a curriculum, you still want to, you know, uh, inject spatial literacy,
Mm.
ethical awareness, and then still user empathy to shape the experience. So you still want the students to be inspired. You encourage them to use, I would say, you encourage them to use the AI tools, to use like a Lovable, to let them fail there, the happy failures that I've talked about earlier. And then realize that, oh, I understand, and I'm being also mentored to be aware, to understand
Mm.
what I need to do. I need to write better prompts. I need to build a better workflow. I need to have still like, just all the stuff that you would need to do without AI.
Yeah.
You still need to consider what's the human experience, what's
Yeah.
the user empathy. So these tools actually will they'll by the way, they change over time. They change every week.
Yeah.
So it's the mindset is, that's the real tool that needs to be, in the classroom. And that's how you balance these tools with teaching, and a teaching mindset is by allowing them to use it, but also giving them the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is all
Yeah.
those things, described.
Yeah, like my currently I'm teaching a class called Coding for Designers and Artists, and I teach Unity. At the beginning, I teach all the foundation, and then I always told them that this class is AI open. You can use any AI tools. At the beginning, it's fine, but at the beginning, I was focusing on the more like a syntax, like a variable, what's function, what's loop, right? What's if statement conditions. And then I ask them to, start using prompt. I even teach them how to use Cursor, and people just like, wow, it's just like, if you prompt right, it's all done, right? The thing about it is that I told them that my class, the way that I evaluate is not how good your coding is. Because if AI can do your assignment within 5 seconds, then this assignment is bad, right? This it's teacher's fault. Teacher shouldn't assign you. So my final is turning public domain literature into Unity game. So my student is, doing like Frankenstein, right? Doing like a Romeo and Juliet and start turning those. And when they start working on it, I told them that when you do a game, don't do like a shooting game, zombie game, spaceship game, or like whatever I can say, fighting game, a racing game, you know, because public domain literature is not fall into those cliche types of game, right? And collecting stuff, right? Get points, right? Those types of games. So they have to think. And one of my students doing like a Frankenstein, but using whatever he likes. It's not really following the things. And I said that maybe go back to read the book because he just like, oh, I want to do Frankenstein. And oh, I know Frankenstein is a monster. That's it. And walk into a Mexican field. And I was like, go back to read the book because it's not the story. You can have some high level metaphor regarding to your personal experience, but overall, because your name title of the game is this, right? And also you need to think of the user. The goal is for people who play your game, wanna read that book. So if you are too off the topic, if you are too crochet, if you make this game not authentic, not really, get the spirit of the literature, right? And people won't want to do it. So I think it's interesting that before we are educators are focusing on individual skills, like memory, right? There is a pyramid called Bloom's taxonomy, which starts from basic memory, right? And in the middle is like apply and analysis, and then top is create. So it was like that. But I start teaching them a little bit, basic. The work is always create because you have AI assistant. So you can start create, and a lot of memorization is probably left off to AI, and you just become the director and you start thinking about the big picture. For example, like I usually said that there are so many great coding. When you play a game, you don't think how good the developer code is, right? That's like how amazing their code is, how organized. Or when you, do an app, you won't say that, wow, the UI is great, right? It's more like how this game or how this app serve a purpose to you. There are millions of apps with a really good coding, really good UX UI experience design, but nobody use it because it's not, nobody even need it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, creativity is the key. And
Yeah.
I think everything, the motivation will be there, will last if your students are creating almost instantly in the beginning.
Cool. Yeah. So what's that one thing you still like to share and we haven't touched on yet?
Oh wow. Um, yeah, I figure I'm probably all over the place. So what else did I not cover? But I think I think we're entering a moment where extended reality and AI it needs like a new compass. Maybe the goal is not to overwhelm people with immersion, but to make them feel more capable and connected. So maybe giving them more degrees of freedom gives them that confidence. I think we're moving in the right direction if that was the case. So I was trying to tie it with an XR thing there because we mean creativity in general here.
Mm.
You know, just try to like have that North Star as the uh, the goal being people should be more capable.
Yes.
And by doing that, they're going to be more connected that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree because, for example, like for AI, right? AI makes me feel very capable of coding something that I know a little bit, and I learn from AI and start learning. So I feel capable of coding, right?
Yeah.
And also AI makes me feel like, for example, like generate a deck, right? Presentation deck, right? Wow. Even though it's like a mediocre, right? But it's better than you need to start from zero, right? So
Yeah. You know what's interesting about that is like so you and I were designers, so we're always very concerned about our presentations or our decks. Like,
yes, so
but if you think back now, before AI could make a deck, how many decks were just so basic? And like,
yeah.
like that you would go to this convention and
Mm.
there's this really important person standing on the stage and they're showing like a black and white, like default font bullet point slideshow. And everyone's okay with that. And you're just like, wait, how come no everyone's not okay with mine when I do one like that? It's because we have that like design
Weird needs to be
mindset.
3D and need to be sure and the font, right? And
Yeah.
everything need to be and also for example pitch deck, you need to be, there's like a 10 slides and how can I even put all those stuff in those slides and how can I choose and pick, It's very hard. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, for AI, it should make people feel more capable and connected, and also XR, right? So, yeah, so cool. Okay, yeah, that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. We release episodes weekly. If you enjoy this conversation, check out our other episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or YouTube. Support us by giving us a follow and a 5-star rating or subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Thank you and see you next time.